Welcome back to I'll Watch What They're Watching, where we are curious and adamant about cinema. So we realized that in our excitement about film, we spent way too long talking about movies. So we decided to split this first episode into two parts. So now we're going to dive into our 3, 4, and 5s. Or our 3, 2s, and 1s.
There you go. Yep.
Cool. Let's dive in.
All right. My number 3, ever changing, because it is Lord of the Rings. At this time, it's Fellowship of the Ring. I think I oscillate between all three, honestly. I know Return of the King has 15 endings, but I don't care. I love them all and I cry at them all, so I still like it. Two Towers I got to see last year when they did the re-releases in theaters, and so said that's my favorite for a while just because fresh, I guess. But at the end of the day, I love Fellowship of the Ring. There's just this, and I apologize, I'm just jumping right into this. I think everyone knows what Lord of the Rings is. If you don't, get on that ASAP. And there's so many behind the scenes and available content to consume on Lord of the Rings that if you're interested, I just highly encourage you to do it because everything about it is fascinating. Like when Orlando Bloom and I think Sean Bean almost got trapped in an avalanche and some random lady let them into their cabin and saved them, and crazy helicopter rides, and so many. It's just an incredible experience, an incredible movie. It's just, and I think for me too, it's like I said, it's one of those defining movies of my childhood, of my entire life, where it's hard for me to even think about that not being in somebody else's life or their experience watching that movie. So they're perfect movies. I mean, I don't even know what to say. They're just incredible pieces of film history and art and all the stories, everyone involved, starting with obviously Tolkien, just created these massive worlds and defined essentially the epic fantasy genre. Peter Jackson coming in and having this vision that respectful to the books and honors them, but also makes it into what film can be. His wife or partner, I think his partner, Fran Walsh, she's a big unsung hero of getting these movies made. She did a lot of the screenwriting. She actually did a lot of second unit directing. If you don't know, all three of these movies were filmed back to back to back, and basically, and not back to back to back, they were filmed where all at once. So second unit directing can be doing scenes from 3 and 2, and the main team could be shooting 1. So it's just really complex, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on. But I did want to mention Fran Walsh essentially created and directed a lot of the Gollum scenes and really kind of defined who he was as a character. So of all the crazy things that happen in this development, I wanted to shout her out because I think she is one of the unsung heroes of getting all this together.
Can we just take a moment to talk about the cast?
Absolutely.
So the casting is so well done.
Because it is tremendous. Just a mix of very well known and people that became very well known. Everyone in there is just plays their parts perfectly. I can't think of a single performance that I'm like, they should have gone a different direction here. It's just all tremendous.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that Return of the King had a historic Oscar night, 11 Oscars, won every single one. The tragic part of that evening was that Sean Astin did not receive a nomination for supporting actor for his portrayal of Samwise Gamgee. And I think he felt bad about that. And I think that is the only one sort of omission as far as awarding these movies and the things that they've done. So that's too bad, but not a big deep dive into this one. This is one of those movies in the trilogy where it just feels like it's unique and there's just never going to be anything like it ever again. It's just beautiful and the story's beautiful and I don't know what to say. It's incredible. I did want to ask you, as this kind of did spur the genre for fantasy, for epic fantasy, whether that's literature or movies or even video games. So I was kind of curious what your relationship was with sort of this epic fantasy genre and kind of where you've gravitated towards?
Yeah, I was a big reader growing up. Yeah, video games, same thing. I've always loved kind of the big, epic, the Horizon video games are some of my very favorites. I love Dungeons and Dragons, run and participate in multiple campaigns. So
Very
that's
cool.
always been, a big aspect of my life. And then, yeah, Lord of the Rings. My number two is, I think, also a fantasy film that kind of defined the genre in some ways. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, fantasy has always been a genre that I have just adored.
Great. Yeah.
You?
It's awesome. Obviously, this was my sort of gateway into it, and I read a lot of different books. Your Brandon Sandersons, your sci-fi fantasies, love it, love it. Eat it all up. Give me some more.
What are your thoughts on the Hobbit movies?
I think this could be a hot take. I think they're underrated.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I think they obviously have their various issues, but I enjoy them. They're a good time, and I think that the source material, it does bring some question of how do you get 3 movies out of this, but
Yeah.
I ate it up. I had a great time. I enjoyed
Okay.
them, and he takes some things and he embellishes it. It's not it's not Lord of the Rings, and it never will be, but that's my hot take. I enjoy those
Yeah.
movies. Maybe if I rewatched them now, I wouldn't, but my hot take for now is yes, Hobbit, good.
I've only actually seen the first one,
Oh,
because
no kidding.
and we'll talk about this obviously a little more in the podcast, but you and I were both raised Mormon LDS, and so I served a religious
Mm-hmm.
mission.
Right.
Some I know for sure the second, possibly the third came out while I was on my mission, so it flew a little under the radar for me.
Okay.
I do love the book. Lord of the Rings I've tried to read a few times and have never gotten through it. The Hobbit I tore through. Really loved the Hobbit book. You're making me want to give the Hobbit trilogy a shot. I still don't think
Just
there's any need for there to be 3 movies, but
I mean, no, but I understand the decision. If you're gonna make buku bucks making movies, might as well just
right.
do it. But I think again, you do miss a lot of the key features that made Lord of the Rings so special. As far as the cast and as the filming back to back to back, and it's funny the way that technology progresses and how I think people early 2000s and maybe your beginning of your 2010s CGI was really tastefully done. A lot of people look back to like Pirates of the Caribbean 2 as kind of the pinnacle of CGI and practical effects of just
Interesting.
looking incredible, and now you're looking at movies and you're like, what's going on here? This doesn't look right. And so I think
Yeah.
obviously that's one of the major criticisms is the CGI just doesn't really hold up as well as anything in Lord of the Rings, which some of that can get a little bit dated as you watch now, but it's still great.
I couldn't agree more. I love the Lord of the Rings. I have a lot of fondness for every single one.
Yes.
I feel like every year or two,
Oh yeah, it's a yearly
every couple
rewatch.
years, I'm like,
Yep.
let's pull them out again. Time for Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely. All right. So what's your number 3?
So this is the second international film on my list. This is the first animated film on my list, but there will be 2. And it is the second international film on my list. So I have a soft spot for international and animated films, which I think you'll come to kind of learn about me. But mine is 2016's Your Name.
Yay.
So for those of you who haven't seen Your Name, it's basically about a high school boy and high school girl. The girl lives kind of in the boonies. The boy lives in Tokyo. And they wake up one morning and they find that they are in each other's bodies and in each other's lives. And that's basically it, is that things start randomly. There's no rhyme or reason to it. They will just wake up and they've swapped bodies. So they start to kind of leave little notes for each other as far as like, hey, this is what happened today. This is what I did. And that's kind of the first 45-ish minutes. I don't want to say too much after that, but basically the one thing I will say is it randomly stops happening. It kind of switches over to the boy's perspective at that point, and he's like, yeah, I never switched bodies with her again. And it kind of goes on from there. And like I said, I feel like it's going to give too much away, so I'm not going to say anything, but it's pretty simple, but that is basically the crux of the story on that.
Yeah, it's really great. And I do have to say my brother, he served his mission in Japan, and he served in a lot of rural areas and has said that that's like a really accurate reflection of areas that he's served in when they are in those rural areas. So again, when you talk about the beauty of this film and the real sort of counterpart, it's kind of a cool connection at least.
Yeah, I did creep on your Letterboxd a little bit. This is a 5-star film for you.
It
So
is.
before I get into it, I'd like to hear why do you love it? What gave it 5 stars for you?
I think I'll just keep it simple for anyone that hasn't seen this. This is one of the most beautiful movies you will ever see. And just as like art and beauty and the music combined with the emotional weight of what's going on, like this is just a beautiful movie.
I could not agree more. This is one of those rare films. I don't know if anyone will understand what I'm talking about when I say this, but this is how I don't know any other way to put it. This is one of those movies that feels like it was made specifically for me.
Yeah.
Like this was one that I was engaged to someone. It was broken off very abruptly, very abruptly. And I stumbled onto this movie. I was in Target. I think I was doing some retail therapy. I was like, I'm going to buy a couple movies because I'm sad.
Sure.
And looked at the cover, and I was like, this looks interesting and pretty. And I think I looked up reviews, and I was like, yeah, it's got good reviews. Plucked it off the shelf. Hadn't looked at it for a couple weeks, and then it was like one random Sunday afternoon. I was like, oh. And like 30 minutes in, I was like, oh, this is a movie. And historically, I'm kind of notorious for like not having any respect for spoilers. I'm like, I don't care. So many times I wanted to be like, I need to know if it ends happy. I need to know. Because I was like, with my emotional state right now, I was like, if this is one of those beautifully tragic things, no, I cannot deal with that right now. And there were so many times I wanted to pick up my phone, just be like, I have to know it ends happy. I have to know it ends okay. And I'm so glad I didn't.
I actually have a friend that I've been trying to get her to watch this, and she's hesitant because she is afraid that it will be sad.
This is the movie where if someone doesn't like anime, I have them watch Your Name.
Well, yes, that's correct.
I have yet to show this movie to someone who did not like it.
Yes, I showed it to Allie, and she loved it too. Same type of thing. I don't know that I could ever convince her to watch other animes or anything like that, but this, I'm like, no, you gotta watch this.
Yeah, and it's that movie that the way I describe it, I tell them the ending. I either say it's hopeful or it's optimistic.
Yes.
Or I just, if I'm good enough friends with them, I'm like, just trust me. I don't think it's a sad movie. I also wouldn't say it's clear cut and ties everything in a bow.
Yes, exactly.
It's a very hopeful, optimistic ending.
I'd agree.
And so again, kind of, I've always sort of felt like this has kind of been a movie, especially for me. But then also, like, the way my girlfriend and I met, there's no way we should have met, and there's no way we should be as compatible as we are, and there's no way, like, mind-blowing. So I showed this movie to her, and she's sort of notorious for crying in movies. And she started crying, and we talked about it afterwards. And it's kind of one of those things, like, same thing, like, this movie is just sort of like serendipity, happenstance. Like, there's no way it should have worked out the way it did. That, I don't know, that feels, I feel like so many relationships could say that, but which is why I'm like, I don't entirely know how to conceptualize this other than it feels like it was made for me. But everything that you said, I mean, gorgeous visuals. Like, there are moments where I'll just pause it and I'll just be like, this is stupid pretty.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous how pretty this is. And have you seen so the director is Makoto Shinkai. Have you seen any other of his films?
I have not. I know you'll get to that in a second, but I would consider myself very, very, very green when it comes to anime. You know, your typical Pokemon movies growing up and couple Ghibli, but honestly, very, very, very little. So this is, again, I know this movie's great, and I think a lot of people, like you said, it's a great introduction to it, but I'm very green, so it's, I have a lot to do.
Yeah, no, this will be fun. This is my favorite of his films. I think he did one called 5 centimeters per second, which I like. He did one called Children Who Chase Lost Voices, which I didn't quite get on board with. After this, he did one called Weathering with You, which I was like, it's fine, but I have a brother who he feels about Weathering with You the way I feel about Your Name.
Did he
And then the
do
most
Suzume?
I was about to say the most recent one
Oh,
is
okay, okay,
Suzume,
okay. I've heard
which
a
I
lot about
also
that, but haven't watched that one yet.
that was another one that I think I was the only person in the theater because I watched it on like a random Thursday afternoon or something, and I
Awesome.
stopped through pretty much the last 20 minutes. But yeah, like I said, I think it's a film that if you're not into anime, if you're not into international films, this is a great stepping stone into the genre. It's super, super palatable. Like I said, I have yet to show it to someone who did not like it. Every single person I've shown this movie to on some level has really gotten a kick out of it. That for me evokes more emotion than almost any other film. Like the
Yeah.
emotion that pulls and the high, like emotional roller coaster, this is like the film. The highs and lows, I am on board every single time. But yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen it, I would highly, highly recommend it. I think it's on like HBO Max or something. I think it's on a streaming platform. Turn it over to your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now I know you love this movie as well, so of course jump in and share your feelings. So anyone that has not seen this movie, it is about a couple that owns a laundromat that is getting audited by the IRS. And that is all I will say.
I will say it is a Chinese immigration couple, which I think is an
Yes,
important thing to note.
that is essential and very important. This movie is a lot of different genres kind of blended
Mhm.
into one. I would say primarily action with some comedy, drama, sci-fi, everything everywhere all at once. So this movie came out a couple of years ago, and I saw it first on TikTok where people were talking about the movie like this movie is a big deal. And I would even say that my experience with movies was kind of in that I like movies, but it's not like a really big thing in my life yet. My wife and I had started doing these sort of fun little self dates where you take yourself on a date and go do some
Mm.
different things. And my primary activity was going to the movies. So I saw this, and the word of mouth on this movie was just nuts. Like everyone was just starting to say, like, this movie is a big deal. So I went and I saw it by myself. I was in the theater all alone and just bawled, just full shoulders shaking, uncontrollable sobbing watching this movie. You said as well on the separate thing of movies that change your life, and even though it's been recent, I can definitively say that this movie changed my life watching it in a number of ways. I'll talk about another in a second, but I think this really was the movie that sort of catapulted me into, well, I'm going to really take movies seriously. Like, I had such a good experience with this movie. I want to be more involved in conversations about movies and movies that come out and movies that are considered great, considered classics. So this, above everything else, this movie really kind of catapulted me into looking at movies a little bit more closely and seriously.
I love what you said about it really being catapulted by word of mouth because I didn't go out to see movies much just because I was like, I don't want to leave my dogs, home for so long. I want to be home with them when I'm not at work. Just a variety of things. I was like, it's so expensive. So I didn't see many movies in theaters. I would just wait for them to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
had a coworker, a buddy of mine, who we had done a lot of talking about film, and he texted me and he goes, "There's a movie that just came out, and if you see no other movie this year, this is the one you need to go see in theater." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Everything Everywhere All at Once." And I said, "Okay, what's it about?" And he goes, "I don't even know how to answer that question. Just
Yeah, it's a
trust me."
crazy movie, guys. It's a crazy movie. No, that's
So
great.
yeah, same thing. I went and I saw it, and I wasn't alone in the theater, but there wasn't a ton of people there. And yeah, I just texted him afterwards, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Wow."
Yeah. No, it's so good. So the creators of Everything Everywhere All at Once wrote and directed it. It's a like writing directing team. The Daniels, both their first names are Daniel, so it kind of works out. It's great. They were popular before this with a lot of music videos, and they had a couple other movies. The most popular music video, Turned Down for What, kind of a viral thing, gimmick, and that type of thing, and crazy, right? So again, this movie's crazy. you watch that music video, you watch this movie, you're like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
And this movie, I gave you the quick plot summary, but it delves into the multiverse. And so it's crazy how ideas come about and when they come about, because when this movie came out, it came out the same year as Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. It came out just on the heels of Into the Spider-Verse, and whichever Spider-Man movie.
Into the Spider-Verse was a few years previous.
Okay. So right after whichever one you just said. And then the live action one even too was right around the same time. So just a really popular thing. And so I listened to a couple interviews, and they kind of talked about their frustrations with all these ideas coming at once, because they had this idea for about 15 years, and all of a sudden they started seeing people, Rick and Morty even, talking about the multiverse, and they're like, they're beating us to it, what do we do? And one of them even says, I hate the multiverse movies. Once you introduce it, nothing else matters. And that's essentially the crux of what this movie is. Okay, well, if nothing matters, let's take that to its logical conclusion. And so that was probably somewhat of a spoiler, so sorry for anyone listening. But and they even were asked to direct Loki, the TV series through Marvel that is also multiverse based. So just at that time, and it's funny actually, because there's all these direct comparisons, and this movie does it so differently, especially than the Marvel counterparts. And the Russo brothers actually were producers on Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I did know that.
Yeah, so it's all just kind of a funny way that happens. But essentially they talk about how do we take this to that conclusion that nothing matters, but then come back and give the audience a big hug. And I think that's exactly what this movie does achieve. Also, the fights are really fun. They're really unique. They said they got a bunch of YouTubers that they liked their way of filming action scenes and hired them to do the action scenes for this movie. So just a lot of really cool things going on here. They even talk about, you kind of mentioned your undiagnosed ADHD. Is that right? Or
it's diagnosed now, but yes.
Yes. So actually, one of the Daniels, they were kind of taking that and they wanted that to be a main plot point. And they were exploring that and learning about that. And suddenly it clicked. And he said, wait a minute, this is me. This is something that I have. And so in talking about and researching this, he realized that he did. And I love what he said here. It says what the diagnosis really does is it removes you from the judgment so that you can understand yourself and forgive yourself.
I like
This
that.
movie is just really beautiful in its messaging about, again, it feels like a hug. So jumping ahead, I just think this movie ultimately depicted a way of living life or belief in life and what the purpose is that I believed in, that I didn't know how to vocalize or to live my life that way. But I watched this movie and I just had this realization of, oh my gosh, this is what I believe. This is what I like want to espouse in my life, of this sense of kindness and making connection and finding meaning in various things that go on in life. Because life is complicated, it's confusing, it's frustrating, but ultimately we have that ability to make meaning out of it, to be able to take things that are seemingly random and seemingly make no sense and shift them in a way that allows us to connect with others and allows us to forgive ourselves, to be compassionate, and to love ourselves and to have better lives. So I just love this movie, obviously. This movie made $142 million total, and its opening day only opened to about $500,000. So again, when you talk about the word of mouth, it was crazy for this movie. And then it did end up winning 7 Oscars, including Picture, Director, Original Screenplay, Actress, which Michelle Yeoh became the first Asian woman to ever win the award. And then it also won Supporting Actor, which, oh my gosh, just go watch that speech. Just beautiful, just so touching, brings this whole thing full circle. And then supporting actress, which they chose the wrong supporting actress to win. Jamie Lee Curtis's, I'm sorry, but her performance is fun, but you could swap her with just about anyone and it makes the movie still the movie.
I would say Jamie Lee Curtis, this is how I feel about some of the Oscars sometimes, is
Sure.
Jamie Lee Curtis, though, is such a Hollywood icon at this point that I'm like, it's about time she got her Oscar.
Agree to disagree. Just think especially when you rewatch this movie and Stephanie, I don't know if the last name is just
Stephanie Sue is amazing.
Yeah, Stephanie Sue, she's the emotional weight, her comedy, her timing, her delivery of everything. It's incredible. And it's one of those things too where I hope she gets those opportunities and that she's back there and that she can be back there.
Yeah.
I really hope she can.
And that's kind of my thing is I'm like, she's young. She's got time. Jamie Lee Curtis has put in she's put in some time.
Yes, but still.
Okay.
Give it to her. Go back. Give it to her. All right. What's your number 2?
So this is another trilogy. And this is the one that I also say is I feel like kind of defined the fantasy genre. This is the original Star Wars trilogy. And kind of with you, if I had to pick one, it's going to go Empire Strikes Back, which I know is like the boring choice, but that is how I feel about it.
Nah, we love Star Wars.
It used to be Jedi was my favorite, honestly, until quite recently. I even remember in the past handful of years, I was always still like, nope, Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I loved the Ewoks. I don't care. I love the happy ending. But so after, and I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point, after The Last Jedi came out, I did not watch anything Star Wars for some time because I was very upset.
Sure. Understandable.
I felt like my entire love for Star Wars had been squashed in one fell swoop. I was very, very distraught. And then I was home for Christmas one year and I asked for the Star Wars trilogy on 4K. And so we watched the original trilogy together. And watching Empire Strikes Back, this was just a handful of years ago. This was like my come to Jesus moment. I was like, oh, this movie is a masterpiece. Like, full stop. This movie's amazing. Return of the Jedi, yes, I still love you. You make me happy. I always love to, follow up the trilogy with that. But I was like, Empire Strikes Back, this is it. Like, this movie is it. Yeah, I could go through it, everything about I love Yoda. I love the introduction of Yoda.
Sure.
It's so interesting because this is another series that my girlfriend has never seen. So we're making our way through it now. And I don't remember what it's like to see Star Wars for the first time.
Right.
It has been such a staple, such a part of my life that it's interesting watching it with someone who's never seen it before because I cannot relate to that experience. I have no idea what that's like. And so like watching it and being like, it's so interesting watching Yoda and being like, people watching this for the first time had no idea that this was the great Jedi Master Yoda. Like he's this creepy little hermit guy who's annoying Luke. Like that's what he does. So I love everything with Yoda. I love everything that happens in the tree cave on Dagobah. I'm not going to summarize this film because if you haven't seen Star Wars, then you have something to do.
That prompted me though. I don't remember what it's called, but have you done the way that you watch it where you watch 4, 5, 2, 3, and then 6?
No, what I was going to do, that I actually might do that because I was talking to my girlfriend about it and it was one of those things where I was like, you have to watch the original trilogy first. I was like, but I don't want us to watch 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, because then you're really ending on a downer. So I just figured we'd watch 4, 5, 6, and then at some later date, we'd watch them all again, 1 through 6.
Sure.
7, 8, and 9 don't exist. So
agreed.
That is an interesting way to possibly go about it. I think that's because
you'll have to look it up. It has a specific name of like the blank order. I can't remember. I could look it up, but yeah, it's basically like you don't have to watch one. There's nothing relating to the plot that's important in one. You can just watch. I don't mind one.
Better than 2. 2 is.
I don't mind one either, but that's what the. It's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of 2
is garbage. 1 is better than 2.
I don't disagree on that, but I think as far as narratively, we have to do Star Wars episode.
Clone Wars, you have to watch 1 because you have to see Darth Maul.
Sure. Agreed. Well, if you introduce Clone Wars into the conversation, then it's a very different conversation, I think, but one we should be having eventually.
But yeah, I mean, I think for this one, just like the movie is perfect. No notes. I love Han and Leia. I love the Luke and Leia connection at the end, you know, the Darth Vader father reveal. Like, the movie's perfect.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite Star Wars film?
A difficult question. When I was a kid, I actually also watched Return of the Jedi so many times that I broke our VHS. So I loved that one. I would probably say if I had to pick one, I would actually pick Revenge of the Sith as my favorite. Just, you know, space opera at its finest. Just tragedy and politics and war. Love Revenge of the Sith. I haven't seen Rogue One in a while. I've always really liked it though. And after watching Andor, especially season 2, I'm like, oh, I might really, really like Rogue One. You've seen Andor season 2, right?
I have not seen any of Andor, and I saw Rogue One. I had been home from my mission like 3 days, and the movie started 2 hours. It started 2 hours after I should have been in bed. So I was awake through the whole thing by sheer force of will, because in my brain I was like, this is Star Wars. You will not fall asleep. But I don't remember a good chunk of it, and I've only seen
I am shocked that you haven't seen Andor.
If it came out after Last Jedi, I probably haven't seen it, to be completely honest.
So you have Mandalorian you haven't seen either? Wow. Oh my gosh. We have some.
I don't think you understand how much Last Jedi screwed me up.
Oh my goodness. I'm surprised by that, and I don't want you to like yell at me right now. I don't hate Last Jedi. So again, I would answer right now Revenge of the Sith. Need to rewatch Rogue One soon. Honestly, need to rewatch the original trilogy soon too. It's been a little bit, but we need to plan how we're gonna do this, because you not seeing Mandalorian, at least the first 2 seasons, we can skip the third if I'm being honest, and you not seeing Andor, those are big deals. We need to address that in some form or fashion. So anyways.
Anyway, so yeah, that's Star Wars. Like I said, I consider it a fantasy in space. You know, it follows the hero's journey, does a lot of the good stuff there. But yeah, I Empire Strikes Back is the one for me that is just magic. But getting down to number 1, Adam, what is your number 1 favorite movie you're gonna proclaim before God, me, and all our listeners?
Yes, a full-chested, full heart is The Dark Knight. I love The Dark Knight. If you haven't seen it, Batman and the Joker going at it. Some of the best action sequences, some of the best reveals and twists and turns and explosions and music, and I just love everything about it.
Dark Knight is fantastic.
It was my favorite movie I'd ever seen the second I saw it. It's never really left that spot in my heart. I watched it a few months ago and I was like, yeah, might be the best movie ever made. This movie is just amazing. And so funny story, I'm the youngest of 6 siblings. I don't know if I've told you that. One of my brothers. Okay, well, there you go. So one of my brothers was either staying with us for the summer or was home from college or something. And it was Thursday night, like, I don't know, 8 o'clock or something. And he goes to my mom and is like, hey, can we go see The Dark Knight for the midnight premiere? Because yes, midnight premieres were still at midnight back when.
That's how I saw Dark Knight, was a midnight premiere.
Exactly. Yes. Because that was how it was supposed to work. That's a whole nother conversation, but ultimately, my mom said no, so we just went the next morning. There's something special too about seeing a movie first thing in the morning. I don't know. I just love it. But I mean, from the first second that movie starts, you're like, whoa, what is going on here? The funny thing too is, I like it now, so don't come at me. But I did not care for Batman Begins at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I first saw that movie on a sleepover and just fell right asleep, just bored.
Okay.
I was 9, 10, 11 in that range, so it's like, I don't know, there's things that 9, 10, 11-year-old is just going to be bored at. But this, I was not bored, just became obsessed. The whole thing, changing my Facebook profile picture to the Joker,
You were that kid.
Absolutely. Just me and one of my friends would just watch it all the time. And then when The Dark Knight Rises came out, we obviously went to that midnight premiere and made a big deal of that. That might have been the first time I ever tried hot wings as well. So fun fact there. I love hot wings now, but before Dark Knight Rises. And Mountain Dew Voltage was just kind of a part
Mountain Dew
of
Voltage is still my jam.
yeah, just kind of a part of this movie, if I'm being honest. I think also I haven't seen it in probably 6 years, but Inception is probably hovering right around trying to break its way into the top 5 list. I wouldn't put it in just because I wouldn't want two Christopher Nolan movies. I love Inception too, and so it kind of those two movies I think just came out right when I was like, yeah, action and this is awesome and all those different things. But looking back and rewatching this movie, it still hits. It's still awesome. I love Batman. For who's involved with this one, obviously Christopher Nolan, I just talked about. Christian Bale is Batman, who I still think I would say is my favorite Batman. I like Robert Pattinson a lot, and I really liked the Batman. I think what I would say after that movie was like, I don't think it's as good as The Dark Knight, but you can at least talk about it in a conversation with The Dark Knight, which I think is commendable, as this is my favorite movie ever. I did think on my rewatch of the Batman, I still liked it, but I didn't like rewatching The Dark Knight. I could rewatch this anytime. The Batman didn't hold up as well for me as a rewatch. Really?
Really?
There are some things I'm finding out in just the last 20 minutes that are shocking me to my core about you. But I'm sure.
We texted earlier and I was like, oh yeah, I'm a DC fanboy to my core.
Yes.
And I am. I think I'm a little bit burned out by Batman. It's one that I keep meaning to. Like, there have been several nights where I've been picking a movie and I'll be like hovering over the Batman. And then I end up picking something else.
So I'll ask you this question right now. I'd already sent to you. In relation to that, because obviously we're in a time period right now where the new Superman movie just came out, and there's this whole kind of changing of the guard with DC in general.
Yeah.
Because if you look back, I watched a short like Instagram video about it that was like, let's just talk about the entirety of DC in the last 15 years or something and just talk about the mess in every different movie and what happened. And we should probably do an episode on it because it is just crazy to see the success that Marvel has had and then to come over to DC and be like, well, we got the Batman. But that kind of leads to my question. Why do you think over the years Batman has been so popular and sort of like bulletproof at the box office when all of these other DC projects just haven't panned out the way they hoped?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Batman movies are good, which is something.
That's big.
Yeah, the Batman movies are all varying degrees of, I think, good. They're all watchable, whereas some other DC movies are hot garbage. So that is something. I think another thing is too, like, there are so many people who their favorite superhero is Batman. I know Marvel fans who are like, yeah, no, I love Marvel. And I'm like, cool. Who's your favorite superhero? Oh, well, it's Batman. Okay.
Right.
Like, and I think that's the thing is like, people love Batman. I mean, from Batman the animated series to this day, if you were to just Google best superhero TV shows or best superhero cartoons, Batman the animated series is almost always number one. Always. And the way I've heard people differentiate Marvel and DC is Marvel is about humans who want to be gods. And DC is about gods who want to be humans.
Okay, I'd never heard that. That's interesting.
And I like that. And I think that's kind of the cool thing is the fun thing about Batman is he is like the human on the team. There's actually an animated DC movie where Green Lantern and Batman are talking like for the first time. And Green Lantern's like, so where'd you get your superpower? You know, did you get bitten by like a bat? Or like, and he says all these things and Batman's just kind of not really talking to him, kind of keeps going forward. And then finally Green Lantern goes, wait, are you just a guy in a bat costume? And Batman kind of looks behind at him and smirks and just keeps walking. And Green Lantern's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
And I think that's what it is like the fact that Batman isn't a superpowered being. He's just brilliant and tenacious. And I mean, he's also dealing with some trauma. I think people, and yeah, he's filthy rich, but I think people can almost relate to that in some ways of like, Or there's the idea where almost like, obviously none of us could, but I think Batman is obviously more attainable for us than to be Superman. And I think we like that thought.
Right.
Of like, oh, given the right circumstances and the right training and the amount of money, like, yeah, I could be Batman. Whereas like, it doesn't matter what happens, we're never going to be able to fly like Superman.
Right. No, those are all great points. And I think you're right. I think they just done a good job of sort of, maybe that's a whole episode too, of just looking at Batman and the history and how who they get. And obviously Christopher Nolan coming and picking this up, tremendously impactful on the popularity of it. But this movie's great. And I think, so kind of continuing with why this is my number one movie, I think any great piece of art, your relationship to it can and should change over time. And so when I rewatch this, I love rewatching a movie and then hopping on Letterboxd, reading the top reviews. Usually it's a funny thing because the most popular ones are going to be like one-liners that are just like really funny. Yeah. But then I started reading into some of the other reviews and I was like, what do you mean this is a movie about post 9/11 geopolitics and America and that type of thing? And I apparently there's a lot of conversations about that. There's even college level papers from Ohio State University where people are talking about, this is a direct sort of commentary on and terrorism and what our moral obligation is, or surveillance, right? That's a huge plot point. Like, is it okay to use surveillance to catch someone that's going to do a terrorist act, or is invasion of privacy more important? So there's all these sort of contexts and subplots and themes that pop up as you watch it another time. And, where Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think, is much more of a personal, individual movie of defining your relationship to sort of other people. I think Batman is really a conversation and relationship of how we should be as a society together. Ultimately, there's the kind of the climax plot of the Joker wants the prisoners and civilians to blow each other up, but the heroics of those ordinary people who decide that they're not going to do that. They're not going to give in to terror. They're not going to give in to the ends justify the means lines of thinking. They're going to do the right thing for the right reasons. And I think even Christopher Nolan, I tend to do this with some of my art. Like I dabble in writing music a little bit. I had a band in high school that I had a great time with, but I tend to come across very heavy-handed when I'm trying to, like, I make a connection with something and I want to say that, or like I have this awakening. And I just become very like ham-fisted and heavy-handed when I'm trying to write lyrics or trying to write or do anything like that. And so the way that a good creator and director or artist can take those themes and weave them in without explicitly telling you how to think, I think is where a lot of the magic happens. And Chris Nolan, I read this quote from him. He said, "We try not to be particularly conscious of what we're doing. We try to write the story within this world and these characters, and in the process, try to do something that affects us in the world we live in. When we look back at the finished product, we see various parallels and relevancies, but we try and just let that be a product of writing what moves us, what frightens and excites us. We trust that that will have some reality or some relevance, but it would violate the terms of storytelling and the terms of the genre if you're too conscious of trying to make particular political points. I don't think that's what you're selling the audience. I don't think that's what the ride is. I think ultimately, if the film has relevance, it's actually going to be more interesting to an audience, but we like it to be subtext." And I think that he navigates that line really, really well, so that people can watch this and pull out a lot of those themes and talk about conversations about how do we make a better world? How do we combat terrorism? How do we, can we just hand the keys to somebody to make those decisions for everybody else? And I think that the questions are there and allows us to have those conversations. But regardless, this movie is just awesome. It's just fun. It's just fun to look at. It's cool. It's guys just doing it all. Yeah. I did forget to talk a little bit about Heath Ledger. Obviously, just a grand opus of a performance, just a tragic, tortured sort of character. And he spoke very highly of the freedom that he was able to have in being this character. But of course, he tragically passed away just before releasing of this movie. I do think it's important to note, I think a lot of times there's sort of that rumor, or the conversation is like the Joker drove him to a drug overdose.
I don't.
And it's a lot more complicated, that he had other issues going on in his personal life and that type of thing. And you can tell the way he talks about this movie, like he wasn't going crazy, but it is so tragic. He was only 28 when he passed away.
Yeah.
Like, to imagine all the things that he could have done.
So many great roles. Yeah.
He's just one of the more tragic stories in recent Hollywood, but he just gives a timeless and incredible performance, and just a shout out because it's truly incredible. So anyways, that's The Dark Knight. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah,
Give me 10 more.
I do quite like.
Good. All right, roll out the red carpet. What is your number one?
My number one is 1991's Beauty and the Beast. Disney's Beauty and the Beast is my number one favorite film. I don't see this. My 1 and 2 are ones that I'm like, I don't know that I ever see these changing, because they shaped my formative years, and I love them to this day. Like, I love what you said, how like yeah, Beauty and the Beast was my favorite Disney princess movie as a kid, of course. Mm-hmm. But it's fun when you kind of see these, when you watch them when you're older and you have a new experience, but it only fortifies the opinion you already had.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Like, I watch it now and I'm just like, it's still a masterpiece.
Right.
Do you have like a favorite Disney or Disney princess movie?
Yeah, I think I would say Mulan. Okay. Pretty consistently has been my favorite Disney princess. Obviously, when the sale of Star Wars to Disney, I was on the front lines of making the joke that Princess Leia is my favorite Disney princess.
Okay.
But ultimately, when at the heart of what you're actually asking, I would definitely say Mulan.
Gotcha. No, I mean, I think that's a great one. I really have a lot of love for a lot of Disney films. From Disney lately, I have been nothing but disappointed in, which we can talk about that at a later date. That's another conversation. But I have a couple times tried to watch all the Disney films in order, and I only end up getting ever a couple past Beauty and the Beast, and then I end up kind of getting like bored, I guess, being just like, another one. And I think part of that is because for me, like, it peaks at Beauty and the Beast, and then after that I'm just like, what's the point? I'm also one of those people that I think Lion King is incredibly overrated. So about the point I get to Lion King, I'm just like, okay.
How many after, what's in between Lion King and Beauty and the Beast?
Aladdin.
Okay. I love Aladdin.
Yeah, no, Aladdin's great. But I just, like, this is movie magic for me. I know I've said that about others, but it's mm-hmm. true. I mean, I think the score is just brilliant. I think I said this to my brother the other day and he was shocked. But I came to this conclusion when I was recently watching them, because Little Mermaid and then Beauty and the Beast, and they're both amazing. Right. Little Mermaid kicks off the Disney Renaissance. I do think Little Mermaid is the consistently better score. I like the peaks of Beauty and the Beast better than I like the peaks of Little Mermaid, but I think Little Mermaid's score is really amazing. But I think Beauty and the Beast is right up there. Howard Ashman wrote some of the best lyrics of his career, in my opinion, in Beauty and the Beast. I mean, the line, everything in the Belle reprise, from like, I want to venture in the great wide somewhere, I want it more than I can tell, but for once it might be grand to have someone understand. Like that every single time. I think the lyrics are something really, I think Howard Ashman is an amazing lyricist, and, obviously tragically passed away due to HIV/AIDS complications.
Oh no.
But I think and I think that's why I love a lot about Beauty and the Beast as well, is I think a lot of his lyrics, you do see kind of some of the things that he was going through. And
sure.
Those lyrics. Because it did win 2 Oscars.
Okay.
The first animated movie ever to be nominated for Best Picture.
Okay. It
was nominated for 6 Oscars.
Wow.
It won 2. It won Best Original Score and Best Original Song for Beauty and the Beast. It was nominated for Best Sound. Also, to this day, I think it should have won Best Picture, and I'm not the only person who believes that. I know I have some
What
friends.
it lose to?
Silence of the Lambs.
I don't know about that.
I do know about that. No,
Okay,
Silence of the Lambs is
okay.
great. I think as a whole, Beauty and the Beast is, I think it's a better film. But what's really cool is, so Best Original Song, that year, there were 5 nominees for Best Original Song.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many were from Beauty and the Beast?
Trying to think of the songs. I'm going to say 3.
Yes.
Okay,
that was
wow.
it. So Be Our Guest, Belle, and then Beauty and the Beast, Tale as Old as Time. That's the one that won.
That's awesome.
But, like, just bonkers that half of the awards they were nominated for were Best Original Song, which I just think is awesome. I think and I've written essays on this, I've read essays on this, I've seen YouTube videos analyzing it. I do think Belle is a feminist icon. The people who say it's Stockholm Syndrome, come at me. I will be glad to prove you wrong any day of the week. I think it's romantic as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to this day, I think it's so freaking romantic. The Something There song, I think, is magical, with they're playing in the snow. The ballroom scene, it doesn't look as great now. It hasn't aged terribly well, but they basically created an animation program from the ground up just to make that scene.
Wow, okay.
And again, you look at it now with CGI and you're like, that hasn't aged great.
So quick question for you. I'm not going to ask what you think about the live action, because I can assume I already know the answer loud and clear. But what I will ask, what do you think about the song Evermore in the live action?
I think it's nice.
Okay. Do you think it fits? Would Rewind, if it was in the animated one, do you think it would work?
No, and here's why. I think in the live action it fit. I don't like the live action, but I think it fits fine. I think it's a nice, I've listened to it before. I think it's a nice song. The score in that moment in the animation, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be completely honest. And I'm like, I don't want him singing.
Sure.
That's the moment where, he asks if Belle's happy there with him. And she says yes. And you can see he's very self-satisfied. He's very pleased about that. And I think this is the turning point for the Beast, because he could just be happy with that and have moved on, but he doesn't.
Right.
He looks at her again. He sees that she's still sad. And he asks why, and she asks to see her father. He shows her the mirror. She sees her father, and he lets her go. And that's literally the title of the score, is The Beast Lets Belle Go.
Wow.
And so he tells her to go. And the thing is, when you rewatch it, everyone up to that night had been like, this is the night they're going to break the spell. That had kind of been the anticipation.
Right, right.
Belle is going to fall in love with Beast. Beast is going to fall in love with Belle. This is the magic night. We're going to dress him up. This beautiful ballroom scene, the beautiful song, Beauty and the Beast, Tale as Old as Time. And the exact opposite happens.
Right.
They expected the spell to be broken, and instead, the Beast lets Belle go.
Yeah.
And in that, at that point, because you see him too, again, oh man, I could talk about this movie all day. When she's talking about how her father's sick, he's curled over the rose, and he sees that this rose is almost dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, then you must go to him. That's him being like, if I let her go, he knows this is his last chance.
Yeah.
If he lets her go, it's over for him. He's a beast forever. He knows that, and he lets her go anyway.
Wow. Beautiful.
And so that moment, the music swells, and I don't know how they came up with the design for this, but the Beast gives a howl of anguish. And for me, I'm like, we don't need a song. I think that almost raw animal emotion is powerful, because at that point he's lost. I mean, you see it when Gaston goes in to kill him, the Beast doesn't even fight back. The Beast has lost, hope at that point. And I think it's romantic as hell.
Well, maybe if they added in, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You can cut this out. I was going to say, well, maybe if they added in some cannibalism, it could have won the best picture.
Shut up. Get out. Yeah, again, Silence of the Lambs is great. It's not Beauty and the Beast. And then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the transformation scene. My brother is an animator, and we've talked a lot about Glenn Keane, who is the person behind the animation of the Beast, the design, and everything about the Beast. That transformation scene is a master class with I think the music is fantastic. When you see the lights the glowing lights start coming down, and you see the Beast the hands and the feet transform from beast to human. It is so good to me. It is just magic. And I'll give one more little fun fact. Again, I could talk about this. I would love to just sit down and do an episode just analyzing this film. But Angela Lansbury performed the iconic song in one take.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
She got off the plane, they ushered her to the studio, she sang it, and they were like, that's it.
Wow.
We got it.
That is nuts.
So yeah, one take, she sang it, and they were like, yeah, that's it. We got Beauty and the Beast.
Wow,
Case
what an
closed.
icon.
But like I said, I think it's so romantic. I think the score is masterful. I think the lyrics are some of the greatest lyrics ever written for film. I think I love the characterization. I love Belle, as a young tomboy. Belle was the one that I was like, she wasn't your run-of-the-mill Disney princess at that time. She loved to read, and she was out and about, and she basically, Gaston comes up to her at one point trying to smooth her over, and she's basically like, screw you, you're the worst.
Right.
And I just, I don't know what else there is to say. I love Beauty and the Beast. It makes me sob every time. I love Beauty and the Beast.
Great. I'm glad, and I need to rewatch it sometime. It's been a little while, but I've always enjoyed it, so no reason not to. We may have to do a Silence of the Lamb, Beauty and the Beast cage match or something for a podcast episode or something.
That would be a blast. Two drastically different films. And don't get me wrong, it's great.
What's the what's the story behind this? Is this an adaptation, original story, old fairy tale?
It is one of Grimm's fairy tales.
Okay,
I actually think it might be super fun to do like an arts and charts episode where we compare this with one of the other versions. So like one of the really famous, the one in the Criterion collection is French. The director's name is Jean Cocteau, I think. Cocteau is the last name. I don't remember the first name. And I've seen that one. It's very good. There's an anime adaptation that came out a few years ago called Belle, which I also quite enjoyed.
Isn't there some Beast movie that came out in like the 2010s?
We don't need to talk about that one. Yeah, there are numerous adaptations of Beauty and the Beast, some great, some not so great. But yeah, no, I think it could be really fun to do some sort of compare and contrast between them for sure. But that's our top 5. That was a lot of recording, but that's
what people are always saying. They want a 3-hour introduction podcast episode, I think is what they're saying.
That's what everyone is wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now we know a little bit more about each other. Now the audience kind of has a little bit of a pulse check on what some of our favorite films are, and we'll start planning some upcoming podcasts just to let people kind of know. We will be, again, this was kind of an introductory episode, but we will start talking about some new releases. We want to give people our opinion on those. We will do films that are a little more analysis based and less just, we will do some more top 5s. I welcome if someone wants to see a particular top 5 of something, write in. Absolutely. We'll make it happen. And then, definitely some compare and contrast. We'll kind of be looking at some franchises. So there's lots of fun stuff coming up the pipeline for sure. It won't all be just us rambling about our favorite movies for 3 hours. But
we will. We'll yap.
We will. Apparently, we've discovered we both like to talk a lot. And what's mind-blowing to me is we have texted so much this past 2 weeks.
Right. And
we still talked for 3 hours. And I think we could have talked for 3 more if we weren't trying to.
For sure. This is again, I commend every podcaster I've ever said we're taking too much time on this, because now I totally understand it. You can just yap, you can just go, but this has been a lot of fun. I'm really excited the direction we're going to go. So we'll be around.
Yep. So we will see you guys next time. Bye.
All right. See ya.